how can we improve our meditation to connect more with in our being level?
Okay.
And I find myself, even with the beats, I'm still having a hard time just settling and receiving what maybe has to do with my expectations, maybe has that I don't have enough intention, or
Probably has a lot to do with your expectations. Maybe some to do with fear. But the big thing about meditation is an intuitive exercise, not an intellectual exercise. And people often sit down in meditation and they do it like they approach any other thing they do during the day, you know. It's just like being an engineer, you know. You sit down, you're gonna engineer a meditation state. So you're gonna, what do? Okay, you sit, you know, and you take a deep breath and you relax, okay, and you go through all the things, and then you do this and that, and then you let go of things, and then what? Nothing happens. You get to the end point where you're relaxed, you've let go, and there you are, and nothing happens. And that's because you can't engineer a meditation. You have to let it happen. You can't make it happen. And it's not the technique you use, it's the way you approach it. It's your mindset, it's your feeling, it's your intuitive side. So the meditation works best when we were just talking about meditation, you should really have no goals in sight, or nothing, or really nothing that you really want to do. You just want to relax and get to know your consciousness. Get to the sense of being, so that you just experience yourself as a piece of consciousness. That's what I call point consciousness. You're a point of consciousness floating in a black void. So the black void just represents you're not processing sense data anymore. Sense data is gone. Oh, it's still there. Somebody honks the horn or the phone rings. You can still hear it. It's not that you've gone, you know, comatose or something. You're just not processing the data anymore. You're not really paying attention to it. So you're floating in consciousness, seeing nothing, hearing nothing, smelling, tasting nothing. So that's you in the black void. And just hang there. Just hang there, being aware that you exist. And that's really the first step in meditation, to get to the point where you can go to this point consciousness and just exist. Then, once that becomes easy to where you can do that and hold that state pretty well, the next thing you can do is start being active with what comes next. Use your intent to go someplace, do something, communicate with someone, have a telepathic conversation with someone, remote view something, have an intent to go do something. And if you stay in that nice being level state where your intellect is being quiet and you're just existing, you'll go do those things very easily. But if you have an expectation that it's going to be an intellectual experience, oh, I'm going to remote view, so I'll be hovering over, you know, the tennis courts at the country club, you know, on the other side of town, looking to see, you know, what's going on there, because that's my target. And you expect yourself to be hovering, you know, looking just like if you were, you know, up in the air and you're going to be looking down, but it's not like that. You see, that's your intellectual process. You want it to be intellectual. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be that, you know, when you go there, well, you'll start getting bits and pieces of information of what's going on there. And you're going to have to put those pieces together. You're going to have to say, okay, what's the mood like? What's the attitude like? What's it look like? What colors are there? What, you know, you're going to have to start asking yourself all these questions so you get bits and pieces of information, and you'll find out that if you write them all down, you end up with a very good description of a swimming pool. Although you may not ever seen the picture. You're getting the information. And that's the beginning of remote viewing. You're starting to get data about a subject that's a target. And the more you practice, the quicker it comes, the easier it is, and the more likely you are to actually start to get pictures. And eventually you'll get pictures sort of like you were just up in the air, hovering like you thought with your intellect. But if you try to go there first, you can't get there. It's impossible. But you start at the bottom and work your way up to that. The problem most people have when they try to go do something is they want to have an intellectual experience, like they have here, but it's an intuitive experience, dealing with information that just comes without explanation, without knowing where it's coming from. It just comes. But the more you do it, the more you get to know what it feels like when you get the right answers and what it feels like when you get the wrong answers. Because of something like remote viewing, after you're done, you can go look and see what the right answer was. So you can tell what's right and what's wrong. And you'll get better and better at getting right answers the more you practice. And then the easier it'll get. And then you'll learn to do something else, like get data on, whatever, a past life or somebody's health or something else. And you got to start the whole process over again. You got to start with baby steps and build it back up because it's a different thing. So you start the process over again, but have no expectations. Just let come what comes. Learn to drift there in that point consciousness state, because that's a nice state. It's very pleasant. Get a lot of energy after you sat in that state for a while. But when you have that under control, then say, well, I have an intent. I want to stop in on Aunt Susie. I haven't seen her for 20 years. See how she and Uncle Fred are doing, and you may go to wherever they are and get some sense of what they're doing and how they feel, the state of their health, all kinds of things. But you won't necessarily see a picture. Intuitive space is often a feeling space, not necessarily a visual space. Eventually you can turn it into a visual space, but you probably at the beginning should try working with a feeling space before you get into the visual space. The visual space will probably come later. It's easier for an intuitive space to be a feeling space. I mean, it's easier for you to get a feeling space than it is for you to get a visual space. A visual space requires a lot of accuracy, right? You got pixels. You got to fill in 1 million pixels in this picture to get it. And that's a lot of data. And for most of us, once we start getting the picture, our intellect jumps right in and starts to interpret the picture, and it gets in the way. As soon as your intellect gets in the way, game over. So you're better to just stick with a feeling space in the beginning and see what you get. And it's amazing how alive a feeling space can become. We have left-brainers here who think feeling space, what's that? But there are people who will look at a feeling space and they will tell you everything that you might see in a picture just by feel. I don't see pictures. All I do is I feel things. Let's see, I'm sitting in front of a building and it's red brick with concrete that's white around the edges, and there's a fire truck parked. The fire truck is red, but it's got a yellow hood for some reason, and there are 6 firemen there, and they're all wearing black hats with white brims, and they'll tell you all this stuff. And how do you feel a white hat with a black brim, or vice versa? How do you feel that? Well, obviously, they're getting information. They're interpreting the information in terms of visuals, but they will tell you they never see anything. All they get is feelings. So this feeling space doesn't have to be, I feel good, I feel bad, I feel happy, I feel sad. The feeling space can be right down to how many stripes the guy has on the shoulder on a uniform. You can feel that in a feeling space. It can be very rich, as right-brainers all know. That feeling space can be a very rich space full of all sorts of detail, even though you might swear that you don't see anything. You just feel stuff. So work in a feeling space to begin with, and then you can ramp it up to higher bandwidth pictures kind of later on. But a feeling space is just easier. Unless you're very left brain, then a feeling space is hard because you don't really know what that means, because you've suppressed your feelings for so long that it's difficult to have them. But then that's a good exercise to do as well.